Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows come the best indie podcasts.
How do you think the world will end? Alien invasion? Nuclear disaster? Another, more deadly pandemic? I'm Jackie Moranti, and I'm the host of Cause of Death, 100 Seconds to Midnight. I talk about the things that could obliterate mankind. I call it pre-apocalyptic nonfiction. The doomsday clock was set at 100 seconds to midnight from January of 2020 to January of 2023. On January 24th, 2023, the Board of Atomic Scientists moved the hands of the clock even closer to midnight. Now, it's set at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been. From nuclear disaster to environmental threats to food and water crises, find out how mankind is destroying itself 1 second at a time. If you haven't listened to my podcast, you should.
Hey peeps, it's me, speaker of true crime with a potty mouth. Listen at your own discretion. Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. Welcome to Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBTQ+. I'm your beast, CJ. I've been doing something lately more frequently than I really should be. Like once a week, actually. I'm tattling on myself. I've been heading down to our local Indian casino, or is the proper term local indigenous casino? Well, anyway, I've been having fun playing slot machines. I don't usually win, but the last 3 times I went, I came out ahead. Normally, I'll just go to the casino for my birthday in October, and I'll give myself like $60 to go crazy with. Well, I went again the other day, but this time, I went to buy a ticket to an upcoming event, and while I was there, I said, what the hell, and I allotted myself $25 to play my favorite slot machines. I turned that $25 into a little over $200. I put a little of it back in, and then I left with the $200. I know it's not much of a win, but a win is a win! Plus, I got to play for over an hour. And I got my event ticket free. Paid for it with my winnings. I also wanted to share something about the Philip DiMartino and the Kevin Kluwer cases. Those are 2 episodes I covered earlier this season. Philip's sister Lisa contacted me, and she thanked me for mentioning Philip's case in the Kevin Kluwer episode. Philip was stabbed in excess of over 40 times in his apartments in San Francisco. The killer is believed to be a Spanish-speaking man, and this is because of notes that he left written in Spanish. Philip was attracted to thin Hispanic men. Kevin was also stabbed in excess of 40 times, most likely by the man he went home with, a Spanish-speaking, thin-built man called Fernando in the Boys Town area of Chicago. And Kevin's murder happened 6 years before Philip's murder, and in 2 totally different cities. But when Lisa sent her DM to thank me, she also told me that when Kevin was murdered in Chicago in Boys Town, Philip was actually living near where Kevin lived, and he also frequented the Boys Town gay bars at that time. So maybe your girl's long shot guess that these 2 cases might be interlinked. Maybe it's not too terribly far-fetched after all. I really had no clue that Philip lived in Chicago until his sister Lisa had told me so. If it were the same killer for both Philip and Kevin, it'd be wonderful if that man could be found, put on trial, and locked up to give those families some justice for their loved ones. I'm hoping I'm not coming across too nasally for you this episode, guys. At first I was fighting allergies, but a couple days ago it became a full-fledged cold. So please bear with me. I have another case out of the UK for you this episode, and it's a frightening one for anybody who has a young teenager in their life. Becoming a teenager for any child is pretty much a rough period, whether the child admits it or not. You don't feel like a kid anymore, but you also know that you're not quite an adult either. You want to be treated like an adult, and you want to make adult decisions for yourself, just not the really hard ones. Hormones take over, making mood swings inevitable. Peers can be cruel. Teachers can be dicks. And there's that feeling that nobody fucking understands you. All of this can be a common theme with teenagers. In 2013, 13-year-old Breck Bednar, he'd always been a great kid. But towards the end of his 13th year of life, he found himself falling into a dark place. A place where he only wanted to be in his room, door closed, playing video games on his computer, and socializing in chat rooms with other gamers. Breck no longer would attend church with his mom Lauren or his 3 triplet younger siblings, nor did he want to hang out with his family at all. Breck's dad Barry and his mom had divorced in 2008. Barry had moved out, but he was still very much part of the kids' lives. Prior to the end of 2013, Breck did everything with his family. He played with his siblings who absolutely adored him. He got good grades, and he was an active part of an Army training program, which I believe is like ROTC here in the States. Breck and his family were very tight-knit. Breck's parents were actually from the United States, but they moved to the UK for Barry's job before they had kids. The name Breck was given to their firstborn to honor the town the couple first met, Breckenridge, Colorado. Breck had friends at school who also played computer games online with him, and many of them were in the same chat rooms he was in. There was, however, one special chat room that Breck belonged to, along with a few of his friends. They were considered the elite to have been invited to this group by a guy named Lewis Daynes. To these young, impressionable boys, Lewis Daynes was like the Wizard of Oz. Before I continue on with Breck's story, though, I'd like to throw back the curtain quickly on Lewis Daynes and expose who he really is. Between 2013 and February of 2014, when this case went down, Lewis was an unemployed 18-year-old computer engineer. Even though he was unemployed, being a computer engineer is a pretty impressive skill for someone so young. However, instead of being motivated to go out and find real work, Lewis would spend his days and nights online gaming and chatting with others. He was an introverted, antisocial recluse who grew huge balls when dominating, controlling, and manipulating younger boys online. Lewis operated a game server, and ultimately he came across Breck online. He invited Breck to a Minecraft chat room that he created. Both Lewis and Breck also played Call of Duty and Battlefield together. Lewis had lived on his own since he was the age of 16, and he had no other friends than those he met online. He encouraged Breck to invite some of his friends to their gaming chat room, which Breck did. Prior to the time that he met Breck online, Lewis had been arrested for allegedly raping and sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy. Lewis was 15 at the time as well. Apparently, nothing had come from that as the young victim decided not to pursue the charges. And even though the victim didn't continue to press charges, the crime was still on Lewis's record. So in 2013 and 2014, Lewis spent a good deal of time talking to Breck and Breck's friends in his Minecraft chat room. Although Lewis didn't know anything about Breck's friends, nor did he care to ask. He didn't even really know their names or pay nearly as much attention to the other boys as he did to Breck. Lewis would often pit the boys against each other, causing friction in their friendships at school. Yes, Lewis was the puppet master of these boys, but he was getting especially close to Breck. At school, if Breck's friends said anything negative about Lewis, Breck would jump at him, and he'd get even angrier with them. Sometimes Breck would even pull away from their friendship. Breck actually got angry a lot. Before meeting Lewis online, he was sweet and obedient, and he never seemed to question anything. But by the end of 2013 and the start of 2014, Breck started to defy his family, especially his mom. Lewis told Breck if he didn't want to do chores around the house, he shouldn't. He also told Breck if he didn't want to go to church, he shouldn't. To Breck, Lewis was his hero. Breck stopped doing chores around the house, and he stopped going to church with his family. For the very first time, Breck's mom saw a dark side to Breck she just didn't understand. Lewis told Breck and the boys he had a few jobs. One, he was a secret agent for the English government. Two, that he owned his own multi-million-dollar computer company. And three, that he also worked for Microsoft, and he promised Breck he could get him an intern position at Microsoft when Breck turned 16. That way Breck wouldn't have to finish out school. One day Breck informed his mother of this, and that was the last straw for Breck's mom. She was none too happy about this online Lewis guy. She secretly was afraid he was a middle-aged man grooming Breck for nefarious activities. Knowing what she knew, Breck's mother went to the police. She told them she felt this Lewis Daynes was an online groomer, and she begged the police to check into him. After about an hour of filing the complaint and speaking to the police, Breck's mom went home feeling a little more comforted that the police would look into this guy. She also forbade Breck from getting on his computer and interacting with Lewis anymore. But of course, Breck would sneak back online to Lewis when he could. Pretty much after Breck's mom left the police station, the police crumpled up the information she gave them and they tossed it away. They did nothing. Had they actually bothered to look into Lewis, they would have found that he had a prior arrest for raping and sexually assaulting the other teenage boy. The more Lewis got into Breck's head with his lies, the less interested Breck became in his family and friends, or school, or his army program, or anything else that didn't pertain to gaming and Lewis. In February, Breck began planning. Lewis had told Breck he was going to need someone to hand his multi-million-dollar computer company to eventually, and he wanted to show Breck the operation and how things worked. He also promised if Breck came to see him, he would upgrade Breck's computer for him free. Breck was elated by this invitation. Breck's school would be on half-term break on February 17, 2014. His plan was to tell his family that he'd be staying the night over one of his friend's house on the 16th. The friend that he claimed he was having a sleepover with was only a few streets over from Breck's home in Caterham in Surrey. It just happened to be the same day as Breck's mom's birthday. However, both of his parents seemed really excited for Breck. They wanted him to get away from his computer. They wanted him to do socializing with his real friends, the ones that were his age. Little did they know what Breck actually had planned. He was going to take a taxi that Lewis paid for to Lewis's home in Grays in Essex. This was about 30 miles or 48 kilometers away. The night of February 16th, Breck walked a little ways down the road, away from the site of his house, and he hopped into a taxi that Lewis had sent. Lewis's apartment was small and nothing special for someone who claimed they worked 3 jobs, including one being the owner of a multi-million-dollar company. But Breck was just 14. He was impressionable and easily influenced by someone he found so cool, like Lewis. February 17th, Breck was supposed to be with his dad, Barry. Barry expected Breck home in the morning, but when Breck didn't show, Barry texted and called him, but he received no response. So Barry called his ex-wife, Breck's mom. and he told her that Breck should be there with him by now, but he hadn't shown up, and he wasn't responding to texts and phone calls. As this was happening, Breck's friends, the boys in the gaming chat room, they were just waking up to horrifying pictures in the chat room. Pictures of a crumpled and bloodied body laying on a floor. The realization came quickly that the body was their friend Breck. The images of Breck's deceased body started to now get circulated to other friends and other acquaintances. Breck's triplet siblings were even getting calls from their friends asking if what happened to Breck was true. That is such a fucking horrid way to find out about the murder of a loved one. And to happen around Breck's mom's birthday, I'm sure her birthday has never been joyful again because of it. A little after 11 a.m. on February 17, 2014, Lewis called the Essex police, and he said he needed a unit and a forensic team dispatched to his apartment. He said there was a struggle between him and someone else, and only one of them was still alive. Outlining his story in a matter-of-fact manner, the controlling killer told the operator, "I grabbed the knife, and I stabbed him in the back of the neck. I believe somewhere near the brainstem. I don't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended with me cutting his throat." Asked by the dispatcher if he was saying that he had killed somebody, Lewis simply replied, "Yes, I am." When officers arrived at Lewis's apartment, they found Breck's body laying in the bedroom. His hands and feet had been duct taped, and signs of sexual assault and rape were present. In order to hide or destroy some type of evidence, Lewis had submerged his computer hard drive equipment in water. Essex police didn't buy Lewis's self-defense story for 1 minute, especially when they found young Breck Bednar bound by duct tape. Lewis was promptly arrested and facing trial for first-degree murder. It was obvious to them that Lewis had been planning Breck's demise for some time. At Lewis's trial, his defense claimed that Lewis had deep-rooted feelings of rejection and isolation in his life, and that he was taken into local authority care at a young age after his mother moved abroad. They continued that Lewis felt more at home in the gaming world than the real world. And I'm sure most of us can muster an "aww" for young Lewis. But there are no excuses for his deranged actions against Breck, especially since he lied to Breck and manipulated Breck to get his own rocks off for nearly a year. Lewis was organized in his killing of Breck, and the crime showed that. Lewis knew exactly what he was doing to this child. Lewis's jury and judge didn't buy his bullshit either. They felt Breck's murder was fueled by a sexual or sadistic motivation. Lewis was sentenced to life in prison, which in the UK holds a minimum of 25 years. If Lewis is released after 25 years, he'll be in his mid-40s. Breck's mom has dedicated much of the past years to trying to educate children of online dangers and online groomers. She's the founder of an organization called the Breck Foundation, which helps parents keep their children safe online. Rest in power, Breck. Our True Crime Quickie comes to us from Miami. That's Miami, Florida, in June of 2016. 54-year-old Laura Cuni had a decent life going for herself. She was happy. She was the manager of a public storage facility in the Cutler Bay neighborhood of Miami for 15 years. She even had an apartment above the facility that she shared with her live-in girlfriend. Laura was well loved by family and friends, even her customers, and she had a unique gift for making others laugh. Laura was caring, considerate, and she loved Cuban coffee. She loved music, dancing. She loved her job. And of course, she loved the people in her life. So it was really odd to everyone when at 6:30 a.m. on June 24, 2016, Laura's body was found in a back closet of her public storage office. She was bound to a chair. The crime scene showed that Laura had been beaten to death. As a side note, I'd just like to point out right here how the police felt the need to tell the media foul play was suspected. Really, Officer Obvious? You mean our poor victim didn't bind herself to a chair and beat herself to oblivion? These are the folks out there that are supposed to serve and protect us. But sometimes it seems like they don't even think before they speak. Anyway, this next part to me is really very odd. And I got it from a couple of different sources, actually. But maybe I'm just not understanding it correctly. Or perhaps there's more context to it than was given by the media. Apparently, the evening before Laura being held hostage and murdered, she went upstairs to her apartment for something, and she told her girlfriend, "Give me your phone. Just give it to me. If you don't, they're gonna kill me." Her girlfriend handed over her phone. And then Laura doesn't come back up to the apartment that night. Laura's girlfriend didn't call the police until the following morning, and when she did, she said that she was afraid her girlfriend had been abducted. That's the following morning for those in the back row. Okay, so the context that might have been left out of the media could be Laura's girlfriend was disabled and wasn't able to make the call right away, or for hours and hours. Or maybe there was no house phone? I think less people have house phones today than back in 2016, but it's possible they didn't have one back then. Or when Laura came back upstairs to the apartment, maybe she gave other warnings to the girlfriend like, "Don't call the police. They'll kill me if you do. Everything will be okay. Just don't be a hero." Of course, that's all my speculation. But it seems to me, unless I were in on the crime, I'd be figuring out some way to get help. Notice how I threw that in there without trying to implicate suspicion on anyone? If Laura's girlfriend was not much different cognitively than you or I don't think she would have been able to fall asleep while this was all going on. Unless she really didn't like Laura much. I don't know, warriors. This little piece of information that was given about the case, it really just makes more questions and gives less answers to me. I mean, come on, put yourself in that situation. You have a significant other who comes upstairs, demands your phone, says that she will be killed if you don't give her your phone. Are you just going to sit your ass back on the couch watching Cartoon Network? I don't think so. I think you're going to be worried about your partner. I think you're going to want to do something about it. In case you haven't guessed yet, this is a cold case and police are still looking for leads. The crime began during daylight hours just after 6 p.m., and it could have lasted all the way through until 6:30 a.m. the next day. The facility stays open until 9 p.m., and the sun doesn't set until about 8:30 or 8:45 in the summer months. Thanks, daylight savings. But since the crime began while the sun was still out, authorities believe someone may have seen something, and they just haven't come forward. Or somebody saw something and they didn't realize it was something important. It's suspected that there were 4 assailants that abducted and murdered Laura. The motive is as unknown as the perpetrators. It didn't appear robbery was the motive. Did Laura know something she maybe shouldn't have? I don't know. But I do know she sounded like a really good person. She even had some great customer reviews on Yelp about how sweet and kind and caring she was. If you're in the Miami area and you might know what happened that evening at the public storage facility, please call Crime Stoppers Miami-Dade County at 866-471-8477. Rest in power, Laura. Hope you find justice soon. Don't forget, I'll be in Denver July 12th through the 14th at the True Crime Paranormal Festival. Come hang out with me and my Dark Cast homies. Autumn from Autumn's Oddities, Tiffany from True Crime Connections, Danica and Shannon from Murder and Mimosas, Gina and Amber from Weird True Crime, and Michelle and Scarlett from Missing Magnolias. And those are just Darkcast Network shows. There's going to be a ton more. Too many for me to list. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the show notes and you can go look. All you have to do is click it and you can go check out all the great shows that are going to be there. There'll be some really big names too. I love you, Rainbow Warriors. You matter. And remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer